Welcome back to the Quickstart Guide for Recovery from Addiction and Co-Occurring Disorders. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn-Elise Snipes. In this unit, we're going to talk very briefly about locus of control. You've learned about the stages of recovery, your triggers, and some of your relapse warning signs, and you've started developing ways to deal with those and to add positive things into your life. You've started to develop a vision of a recovery lifestyle and strategies to help you embrace those new habits, which is awesome. That's that rich and meaningful life. Unfortunately, you still may feel like you should be able to control everything in your recovery. Or maybe on the other side, you feel like you can't control anything and you're powerless over everything. Neither is 100% true. In this section, we're going to talk about locus of control, serenity, courage, and wisdom. And some of those words should already sound a little bit familiar. Locus of control really talks about where we believe our power is. If you have an internal locus of control, you believe that you can control everything. In the present moment, you tell yourself, I should be able to fill in the blank. You think you should be able to do everything, to control everything. And that's just not realistic. That's just is not going to happen. When you're thinking about the past, you might look back with hindsight because, they say hindsight's 20/20, and think to yourself, I should have been able to avoid picking up that drink. I should have been able to deal with that situation better so I didn't get depressed. Well, maybe you have different tools, different awareness now, but you've got to remember in the past, you also weren't able to control everything. You can learn what to do differently if that situation comes up again and maybe prevent it. But it's important to recognize when things happen, we have options. We can either change the situation sometimes. If we can't change the situation, we can change how we feel about the situation. Sometimes, like going to the doctor, sometimes I can't avoid doing it, but I have to do it. So I can change how I feel about it. Instead of dreading it and being angry about it, I can figure out a way to make it more pleasant. So you can change the situation, change how you feel about it, or you can do nothing and let it make you miserable. Those are some options that you have. People who have an external locus of control believe that they are powerless over everything. Fate, luck, or the universe just controls it all. If I succeed or fail, it doesn't matter what I do, the universe had it. If I'm safe or in danger, the universe has it. If I relapse or not, I'm powerless over that. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not 100% true either. When we talk about relapse, it's important to recognize that there are certain things that maybe you don't have control over. But you do have control over whether you put yourself in an environment where you're exposed to those things. If you are in recovery from alcoholism, you don't have to go to a bar. You have a choice about whether you expose yourself to that. You have a choice if you're depressed about whether you expose yourself to things that are going to increase your depression. You have a choice about some things, not everything, but some things. Spend some time thinking about having too internal of a locus of control can contribute to depression, anxiety, anger, or addiction. So if I feel that I should be able to control everything, how can that increase my anger, my anxiety, my depression, or trigger an addiction relapse? Likewise, spend some time thinking about how having a completely powerless or external locus of control can also contribute to depression, a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, anxiety, anger, or addiction relapse. Both of these, too much of either one, is not a good thing. Both of these add stress. Both of these will contribute to relapse. Spend about 60 minutes, about an hour, reviewing triggers and stressors in each of your PACER areas and identify what is and is not control in your control in each one of those areas. So for example, in physical, go back over your triggers for physical relapse. What things might trigger your depression or your anger or your addiction that are physical? Maybe pain, for example. Okay, well, sometimes we can't control pain. If you've got chronic pain, maybe you just can't control it sometimes. You wake up, you're in pain. But there are things you can do. Like, for example, I have chronic knee pain. And I know that, some days it's going to hurt worse than others. But also, I know that if I go and I run 5 miles, it's likely to make my knee hurt a lot worse. So there are some things I can control. On the days that I am in pain, and, maybe I haven't done anything to make it worse, it's just one of those days, I know there are some things that I can do. For example, taking my medication, icing it, heating it, stretching. There are things that I can do to make the pain less. And there are ways I can think about it that can help me not feel as hopeless and helpless. So there are triggers in every area, and it's important to recognize, going back over the triggers that you've already identified, which parts of those things can you control? Which parts of those things might you have to change your attitude because you can't change the situation? So thinking about what things are not totally in your control. Emotional reactions. Emotional reactions are knee-jerk or automatic reactions based on your prior learning. If something happens and you get angry, okay, that is a natural reaction. That's your brain telling you, hey, there might be a threat. You may need to fight or flee. All righty. Well, let's accept that. You can change how you respond to your emotions. You can either hold on to them and nurture them, which can, be a problem. Or you can note your emotion and say, okay, thank your brain for letting you know that there might be a threat, and figure out, what do I need to do to improve the next moment? Other people, you can't control them either. You can control how you react to them. You can control how much time you spend around them, but you can't control them. We already talked about pain. There are things that you can do to stay healthier and to reduce pain, but you can't prevent pain all the time. You can do as much as possible to stay as healthy and pain-free. And then you've got to figure out how to cope with pain and illness when they inevitably do happen. And sometimes something bad just happens. Your car breaks down, the fence falls down, whatever it is. All right, you can't undo that situation. It's done. What are you going to do about it? Instead of being stuck on feeling angry that it happened, use that energy to ask yourself, what can I do next to improve this situation? Locus of control refers to where you feel your power is. If it's too internal or too external, you'll feel a lot of stress. It's important to be able to recognize which parts of any situation you have control over and which ones you do not. In the next segment, I'll give you a hint. We're going to talk about serenity.